Imagine your family is gathered for dinner. Someone begins telling a story about a vacation you all took years ago. Everyone smiles. Your brother remembers getting caught in a thunderstorm. Your sister laughs. There wasn't a storm. She remembers bright sunshine. Your father joins in. Now he remembers that the little seafood restaurant everyone loved was right on the beach. Your mother smiles and quietly shakes her head. No, that was a different trip. Within a few minutes, 4 people who shared the exact same experience have 4 completely different memories. Someone must be wrong. Or perhaps something stranger is happening. Because memory doesn't feel uncertain, it feels certain. We remember conversations, faces, birthdays, first kisses, the day we graduated, the moment everything changed. We don't experience memory as a story we're creating. We experience it as something we're retrieving, like opening a file that has been sitting unchanged inside the mind. But what if that isn't what memory is? What if every time you remember, you also rebuild? Psychologists have a name for this: the misinformation effect. Most of us grow up believing that memory works something like a camera. Something happens, the moment is captured, and later we simply replay it. That feeling is incredibly convincing, because remembering doesn't usually feel like imagining. It feels like returning. Close your eyes and think about your childhood home. You can probably picture the front door, the hallway, the kitchen, maybe even the sound the stairs made late at night. It feels as though those memories have been sitting quietly inside you, waiting to be opened. But memory doesn't work like a photograph. It doesn't even work like a video recording. Your brain doesn't store every detail of every experience. It couldn't. There is simply too much information. Every face you pass, every conversation, every sound, every movement, every expression, every second. Instead, your mind does something remarkable. It stores what seems most important: the meaning, the emotion, the relationships, the pattern, not every detail. Then, when you remember, your brain doesn't simply retrieve the past, it reconstructs it, piece by piece, using what was stored along with everything you've learned, believed, heard, and experienced since then. Most of the time, that reconstruction is extraordinarily accurate. Accurate enough to guide our lives, to recognize the people we love, to learn from experience, to understand who we are. But reconstruction has a consequence. Every reconstruction creates an opportunity for change. Imagine you witness a minor car accident. Nothing dramatic, just 2 cars meeting in the middle of an intersection. You stop for a moment. You see it happen. Then you continue on with your day. Later, a friend asks what you saw. You describe it as best you can. The next morning, you read a news article about the accident. It includes details you never noticed: the color of one of the cars, the direction someone turned, how fast they were traveling. A few days later, another friend asks about the accident. You tell the story again, confidently, naturally. Without realizing it, some of those new details have quietly become part of your own memory. Not because you were trying to lie, not because you weren't paying attention, Not because your memory is failing, because memory is not sealed the moment an experience ends. It remains surprisingly flexible. Every conversation, every photograph, every headline, every family story, every retelling has the potential to become woven into what we eventually remember. And once those new pieces become part of the memory, they rarely feel new. They feel as though they were always there. That is what makes the misinformation effect so powerful. In the next chapter, psychologists would demonstrate this with one of the most elegant experiments ever conducted on human memory. In the 1970s, psychologist Elizabeth Loftus began asking a question that sounded almost too simple to matter. Could changing just one word change what people remembered? Participants watched films of ordinary automobile accidents. Nothing unusual, no hidden tricks, just people observing the same events. Afterward, they answered questions about what they had seen. But one question changed ever so slightly. Some participants were asked about how fast the cars were going when they hit each other. Others heard a different word. How fast were the cars going when they smashed into each other? Only one word changed. Hit, smashed. Yet that single word quietly changed the memories people later reported. Those who heard the word smashed estimated higher speeds. They described the collision as more severe, and days later, many even remembered seeing broken glass. There was only one problem. There had been no broken glass. The suggestion had quietly become part of the memory itself. That finding changed psychology because it suggested something extraordinary. Memory isn't simply replayed, it can be updated. Without us ever noticing, the update occurred. Most misinformation doesn't arrive dramatically. It slips in almost invisibly. Someone reminds you of something you had forgotten. A sibling tells a childhood story slightly differently than you remember. You read an article, watch a documentary, hear a friend describe the same event. None of these experiences feel dangerous. In fact, they often help us. They provide context, fill in missing pieces, explain what we didn't understand at the time. And because those new details fit comfortably beside what we already believed, our minds may quietly weave them together. Eventually, it becomes impossible to feel where the original memory ends and the later information begins. Think about family stories. There are moments repeated so many times that eventually everyone remembers them, even those who were too young to remember them at all. Photographs do something similar. You look at the same image year after year. Eventually, you may begin remembering the photograph itself instead of the original experience. The picture becomes the memory. The retelling becomes the event. Memory isn't trying to deceive us. It's trying to create the most coherent story it can. And coherence is often more valuable to the brain than perfect historical accuracy. Most of the time, that serves us remarkably well. But sometimes, it creates memories that feel absolutely real, even though parts of them arrived later. As surprising as the car crash experiments were, they raised an even more unsettling question. If new information can quietly change a real memory, could it also help create a memory that never existed at all? Elizabeth Loftus and her colleagues began exploring exactly that question. Participants were given short stories about events from their childhood. Most of the stories were true, verified by family members. But hidden among them was one story that had never happened. It described becoming lost in a shopping mall as a young child, eventually being comforted by an older stranger before being reunited with family. Nothing extraordinary, just the kind of event that could have happened. As participants returned and reflected on these childhood stories, something remarkable began to occur. Some people began remembering the shopping mall experience. Not vaguely, specifically. They recalled emotions, details, conversations, even though the event itself had never happened. The memories felt completely genuine because the mind had done what it always does. It built the most coherent story it could. At first, this can feel unsettling. If memories can change, what can we trust? But perhaps that's the wrong question. Memory was never designed to preserve every moment with photographic precision. If it were, our minds would drown in detail. Every passing face, every leaf on every tree, every sentence of every conversation. Instead, memory does something wiser. It keeps what seems most meaningful. What helped us learn? What helped us survive? What helped us understand other people, ourselves, the world? It is less like a security camera and more like an author revising a manuscript. Not to deceive, but to make sense of an unfinished story. Most of the time, that ability serves us beautifully. It allows us to learn from experience without carrying every tiny detail forever. The same flexibility that sometimes creates false memories is also what allows us to grow. Return to that family dinner. The vacation story is still being told. Your brother still remembers the storm. Your sister still remembers sunshine. Your parents still disagree about the little restaurant. No one is lying. No one is trying to rewrite history. Each person is remembering the past through the life they have lived since then. There is something unexpectedly human about that. Our memories are not museum exhibits, locked safely behind glass, untouched by time. They are living things, quietly changing as we change. That doesn't mean our memories are worthless. Far from it. They carry our relationships, our identity, our joys, our grief, the lessons that shaped our lives. But perhaps they also deserve a little humility. The next time someone remembers a story differently than you do, pause before deciding that one of you must be wrong. Maybe you're simply remembering different truths, woven from the same experience. Because memory isn't the past preserved. It's the past understood. And every time we remember, we aren't just looking backward. We're quietly becoming the person who remembers. The past may never change, but the story we carry forward always can.